And welcome on back, everyone, to episode number 91 of Streaming with the Mouse. Today we're going to be talking about two episodes of Star Wars The Bad Batch. They don't really coincide with each other than the fact that it talks about The Bad Batch and Omega. So get ready, stay tuned, and you're listening to Streaming with the Mouse. And welcome on back, everyone, to episode number 91 of Streaming with the Mouse. My name is Clifton Paul Robinson, and joining me, as always, is my co-pilot, I forget what you always say, because we haven't done a real episode in 2 weeks. Cam Ramos. Cam, how are you doing?
I am doing good. Very excited to talk about the Bad Batch. One really good episode. One episode that was fine.
I'll say it. I'll say what you usually say. It stinks.
I honestly didn't think it stunk, and I know that's shocking because usually I think I would have, but I appreciated it.
In the words of the Grinch, it stinks, stank, stunk. And I will give my reasoning for it, but that is not what we'll be talking about first. But we're here for another week. It's been a little bit since we talked about Bad Batch.
Yes, it has. We were kind of Loki-centric there for a little bit, going with the finale. Obviously, had that interview with the director and executive producer of Loki, Kate Herron, last week, which was... Still can't get over the fact that that was a thing that we got to do. That was so cool. Please make sure you check that episode out, as well as all our other Bad Batch, Loki, WandaVision, all those episodes. Please be sure to check those out because it's definitely an honor. But definitely excited to get back into the galaxy far, far away and talk about Bad Batch.
I know, really excited to talk about, especially the first episode, which will be Rescue on Ryloth, which I thought was a good ending to the arc. And I'll just say it, my issue with Infested, I will put it on the table now, is we have now where we are 3 episodes left. So Infested was 4 episodes left, and we got a legit filler episode. I have been harping on the fact that this isn't filler, this isn't that. This was a legit episode, and it did a lot and it did nothing at the same time. But I really feel we've been slighted on the real villains, and I really hope it's not like forced into 3 episodes. Like, at least, like, let it end on, like, a semi, like, what's going to happen in Season 2 arc, but Infested was just too late in the season to be that.
I don't know. It was fine. I think I agree with the lateness of the season, but I think it introduced a really cool character in Roland, and we'll talk more about him later. I think he's interesting to me. I shouldn't have used the word cool. He intrigues me as a character, and I want to see where he's going with it.
I agree with that. I do, but let's jump into episode 1. There's no news this week, only big thing. Get ready for Marvel's What If, I believe August 5th.
The Funkos are out and about in the public, and they are fantastic.
I know, I almost got Peggy. Well,
Lego.
You can also... Yep, go ahead.
Lego's making MCU Disney Plus related minifigures that you can buy in little bags. In the past, they've done them for... some of the animated shows, they do them all the time for Harry Potter. You buy like a little plastic baggie. They're like usually $3 or $4.99, and they come with a mystery figure. But basically, they have a whole line dedicated to the MCU Disney Plus shows. So you can get Loki, Sylvie, Wanda, Vision, Captain Carter, Supreme Sorcerer, Spider-Man person from What If. So they definitely have a lot of options. The Falcon and Winter Soldier guys. So pretty cool. Definitely will be getting my hands on a couple of those, I think. I'm really hoping I pull Sylvie and Wanda and Spider-Man, but those are going to be released on September 1st.
Knowing you're going to pull like 5 zombie Captain Americas.
Probably. Oh, Throg is one. That's pretty cool. But I don't know if Throg is coming as a prop or as his own little...
So for people, if people don't know, I have been collecting the Looney Tunes one because my mom really likes those. They usually come with a prop. So, like...
I couldn't tell if that was a prop.
Bugs Bunny comes with his carrot. Like, it's a little, like, fun holding prop. They're fun. They get a little, it's really fun because they come with this checklist, but when you get to X amount, because eventually they get discounted really fast because they only get this little hype and then it's like, oh, $2. So just need to get rid of them. We don't want these anymore. And towards the end, when you have like more than half of them, it gets infuriating because you keep pulling the same ones. And then you're like, why am I wasting my money on this? Which is always...
Luckily, Cliff, we have good trading partners right here, buddy. For when
we go. There we go. And you can also buy them online if you're really that desperate.
Yes.
But we're going to jump into it. We can talk more about Legos on a different podcast. But we're going to be talking about this episode, Rescue on Ryloth. So just to give you a big recap, like an overarching recap on the previous episode that led into this 2-episode arc, is we were introduced to someone that we kind of know in Star Wars named Hera Syndulla and her parents, Cham Syndulla, who was known as a freedom fighter in the Clone Wars and later turned more towards the dark side of the Rebels in Star Wars Rebels, as well as their mother. And it goes through the transition of power from the Republic's waning days, the twilight of the Republic, into the reign of the Empire, where the Empire seems like they're doing something good for Ryloth, promising peace, giving you this fool's gold, but it actually turns out there was something bigger invested in it that we don't actually know. We never actually found out the answer in either of these episodes, but it ends up being that Hera was involved in a weapons smuggling scheme with her parents' friend, and they get arrested and are being sentenced to no trial to treason and will be executed. Cham breaks them out, but in the process gets arrested. That's where we ended, and Hera escaped. Which it was crazy. It was very nostalgic, and now we get to see what comes next. So before we even jump in, were you pleased with this episode? How this ended? How this arc happened?
Yeah, I think it was a nice two-parter. This one was nice. This episode especially was nice because we got the Bad Batch, whereas like we didn't really have the Bad Batch in the first episode. First episode was really set up for this rescue attempt on Ryloth. So I thought it was a cool balance because we got a little bit of break from the squad, but then get them back in here to help Hera get reunited with her family, and it was cool. I definitely dug the premise. You know me, I've said this multiple times. Star Wars Rebels is my favorite out of the animated shows, whether it's Resistance, Clone Wars, and now Bad Batch. So far, Rebels has taken the cake for me. It's my favorite. I love Hera Syndulla, is one of my favorite characters in Star Wars history. So getting a younger version of her here, seeing her story, seeing worlds collide with Bad Batch and Rebels in a Clone Wars animated format style of animation was pretty special to see.
It was cool. It's also really fun to play Rogue Squadron, and you get to see Hera is a very high up Rebel commander after after everything, which is really cool. Yeah, I mean I know we talked about this last time we talked about Rebels. I am starting to get I don't want to say sick of the experience of all this crossover. Megan, who joined me when you were away for one of the episodes, was like, "No, you're wrong. Like, it's fun to see all these." I'm like, "It's fun. It is fun. It's fun to see it." And I will give my gripes. I'll. It's not Festivus, but I'll air out my grievances. Where we know Dave Filoni has told us that this idea for a modified special clone trooper group was George Lucas's idea, which means that this idea came about before Star Wars Rebels, and also probably happened during the Clone Wars. If the Bad Batch was so important, we would have heard about them already in some capacity. That's just the thing where it's like all these people that are so important to the world of Star Wars from our eyes all had these interactions of very significant importance with the Bad Batch, and they never talk about them. That's just my one thing where we've been told, and I know you can't change the past, but we have been told that George Lucas came up with this general idea. That's mine. That's just my thing, where it kind of hurts the story.
For me, I don't really care. I think it's nice. Yeah, obviously you would like things to be mentioned. Like, I think the best example in Star Wars overall is Episode 4. The Clone Wars get mentioned, and then 30 years later, whatever, we get the prequel series, and we actually see the Clone Wars, and then we get the animated series following the prequels. So that's cool because we heard about it in the originals and see that. I get where you're coming from. Like, we've never heard about these guys before. I really don't think it hurts the story that much. I could see aspects of where you could be like little plot holes, like, oh, we could have definitely heard about them here. They could have helped out here. But I think I say it all the time. Who do I trust with my creative life is Dave Filoni, Kevin Feige, Jon Favreau now too with Mandalorian. Like, Filoni can do no wrong. He'll figure it out for me, and he'll figure it out for us. So I'm not too overly concerned about it.
Well, wait, we're not at that point yet. We're not at that point where it's like, oh my god, please stop. Like, if we got to Ezra's parents, I'd be like, we're too much. We've gone too deep. I don't think that's where we're heading towards this season with how many episodes are left. But jumping into it, we are now seeing the traders on Ryloth, where Rampart and Hauser are going through the detention block in the capital of Ryloth, and they're getting to the holding cell of Cham and Eleni Syndulla, where they kind of go back and forth saying how Cham was the liberator of Ryloth, but then Cham says that they'll never believe I tried to assassinate Orn Free-Taw, who is alive, confirmed alive, so it did not mess with the book, and it actually adds very good more issues between them, because Orn Free-Taw thinks he's being assassinated by Cham, and they're going against each other, and he says how people of Ryloth will never believe your lies, the Empire, everything with that. And Rampart, in pure evil Empire fashion, starts to talk about Hera and the importance of her and what will be ensured with what happens next and how they act. And Hauser doesn't seem to really take those threats well. Like, he doesn't say anything, but you can tell he's not a fan.
Yeah, for sure.
And when this is happening, Hauser starts talking that the people, like, it's not insurgents, like, that Rampart says that anyone that is affiliated with Cham Syndulla needs to be arrested. They need to be taken, and Hauser goes, what's their crime? Like, it's not a crime to be a supporter of someone. Like, they're just being people. They're not insurgents. They have nothing, that they have not committed anything. And Rampart says that they're a menace no matter what. And then kind of brings that they're the ones that attacked our shuttle. They're the ones that attacked our transport. And it's really, you can see where this line of thinking leads for the Empire.
Yeah, anybody that stands in their way is really going to be attacked. And then you luckily do have people amongst their midst, like Hauser, who is like questioning things, which is good, especially for a clone. We didn't really know how that was going to work with some of the clones. If they didn't have their inhibited trips, are they all for the Empire? Are they not? So it's nice to see somebody be on Cham's side, be like, well, no, that's not what's happening here, and kind of trying to be the voice of reason, which there's no such thing as a voice of reason when you're dealing with the Empire.
No, exactly. And the only one, I won't even say it because it's a spoiler still, kind of within the year. But this is happening. Hauser kind of goes back and forth, and he says, just do your orders. Good soldiers follow orders. And Hauser's just kind of like, okay, like I guess so. And as they exit and everything, you see Chopper as they are trying to get out. And this is where something big happens, where above the family mansion, Hera is trying to reach out and kind of call out for help. And who does she get in touch with? Dun, 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 dun. The Havoc Marauder, where Omega is trying to fix Gonki. Poor Gonki. Can't catch a break. Because the droid is also defective, like all of them.
Which I love. There's a cute little scene that we're probably not going to touch on too much, but I'm going to, where Omega says, like, you're defective like us kind of thing, or something along those lines. And I was like, wow, that is really cute, but also really, really sad at the same
time. No, exactly. And while this is happening, they say that they've received a recorded transmission from someone they don't know, and it's Hera. And right then, Hunter's like, you gave her our secure channels, like, in emergencies only. It was a really funny back and forth between Omega and Hunter, and they say they need help and to break them out of prison, and the batch, as always, is not really feeling it at all. And this is something that was brought up on Reddit that I liked the way they were saying. It's like this whole season, it's like it's all about, like, learning lessons. Like, that's the big part of Star Wars. You learn your lesson and you improve on it. And I want your opinion on this. Someone said it's turning into, like, that makes sense for the first couple times, like the first, like, half of the season. Like, no, that's not what we're gonna do. But then Omega's like, but we have to do it because that's what good people would do. And this one is, why not? Soldiers would do this. And
Right.
they're like, oh, fine, we'll do it. And that's what just continuously happens. It happens in the next episode also. Do you,
I I
where's the
feel
growth? Where's the development?
I agree. I definitely agree with that, Cliff. I think at this point, what is this episode? I think this is 11 or 12 technically, and
12.
it's this 12, and it's the same thing. Like, I'm not saying this is I hate the show. I still love the show a
No,
lot.
I
It has
still love the
great
show.
moments,
I will also put
but
that. I still love the show.
I agree. I think the growth needs to happen. Like, it would have been cool if like somebody spoke up, like Wrecker or something spoke up instead of it having to constantly Omega, and then the Bad Batch seem like they have to like drag their feet to be like, oh yeah, Omega wants to do this, we're gonna do this, and then at the end they realize, oh yeah, Omega was right this whole time. Like, if you really thought Omega was right this whole time and that this should be what you do, like you would have done it. And granted, I get what their hesitancies are. They want to protect Omega. They're being hunted by um, different bounty hunters and whatnot, whether it's Fennec or Cad Bane or whoever else might be out there hunting the Bad Batch. So I get their hesitation, but I wish it didn't take so much convincing from Omega, if that makes sense, because we've gone through the song and dance so many times now throughout this season.
Exactly. And hopefully it changes its tone for the last 3 episodes. There can be a lull before the big finale, and I think we'll also talk about that at the end of this episode, where we think this finale is going. But finally, they agree and they head back to Ryloth, and they see that Rampart is addressing the citizens of Ryloth, saying what happened, and completely throwing Cham under the bus. And you can already tell the Batch is hesitant. Like, this is a very big. This is more than just the Empire on Ryloth. It's a occupation on Ryloth again.
Right.
And they end up seeing that they're being tracked again by a probe droid, which I originally thought with Star Wars, probe droids would record and then blow up and send the information back. But no matter what, even if they get shot, they still send the message, which was weird to
Right.
me, which is kind of an interesting addition to it.
Yeah, little wrinkle that I don't think I've ever seen before. Maybe you have, but
I
again,
think
I
we
don't
have.
remember.
It's been a
But
newer thing. It's been a
yeah,
newer thing that they've added, and Hunter's able to disable it again, but it's already now too late because they've now been alerted to this, and Crosshair is now on the case. Back when they go back to their base where they're staying, Hunter tells Hera this is not gonna work. We can get you off world though and get you someplace safe. And Hera is not. Like, they've lost the element of surprise. Nothing is worth it. They'll get her away, and says it's not worth the risk. Which Hera, in her true Hera fashion, says not to you.
right.
Which is very much, that's the thing. Like, you're soldiers, like, but that's the whole thing. You were fighting for this cause for so long, which mattered to you, and then it doesn't anymore. Which,
Yeah, it's really that switch from like if it was this was separatist, they'd be all for this, but the Empire, they're just not seeing as clear that this is the same thing. They've been kind of shown that a couple times, like when they went to rescue. I can't think of his name, but the former separatist that they were hesitant to rescue.
yes,
They starting to realize, okay, the Empire are these bad guys. They're basically worse than the separatists at this point because the Empire themselves helped create the separatists and whatever. They even though they don't know that, but you obviously know how personal this is for Hera because it's her home world, it's her family, her parents, her loved ones. So yeah, I think that's another thing with like the growth of the show. Like, I thought that episode was to really show them like, hey, like separatists, like we can be on the same side now too because now we have a common enemy. Excuse me, I can't talk today with the Empire, and I feel like the Bad Batch still don't see that yet in this episode.
no, and there's a really good Rebels episode where Rex kind of gets that closure,
Yes, for
which is
sure.
really nice.
One of my favorite episodes of Rebels, by the way.
It's an incredible
Awesome.
episode. And then we're back with Rampart and Hauser, where Rampart is kind of reprimanding Hauser again, saying he doesn't want some of Cham's supporters, he wants all of them. And Hauser again goes, this doesn't make sense. Like, arresting too many regular people can cause an issue, where Rampart again goes, peace has a cost.
Yeah.
And that's, and whoever wants to speak out against it, no matter who they are, will be arrested as well. And while this is happening, Hauser is still on the trail for Hera, and he ends up reassigning Crosshair. And as they're going back and forth, which was really interesting, because you can see Rampart is definitely an apple plucked directly from Grand Moff Tarkin's tree. He says, if you can't do it, I'll find someone more suitable to, which definitely gets under Crosshair's skin. And while this is happening, he kind of goes very angrily away, but looking at Hauser, which it's almost like he knows something's wrong with Hauser.
Like he's not with them. He's starting to move toward that side, just like his brothers were.
Exactly. And it's a really interesting back and forth where there's nothing even said.
Right.
And then we end up having them come up with their rescue plan. And this is very much there's the running joke in Star Wars now that the biggest murderer of all time is Chopper. Chopper is a stone cold killer, and we see his bloodlust even more in this episode. We don't know if this is where it starts, but there's a track record now, especially. And,
there sure is.
And they figure out that the best plan of action is to attack the refinery, which is going to be done very well and very in Bad Batch fashion, where it ends up, and we're not going to go into insane details, but it's the way they want to divert all the people back, all the Empire back to the refinery, which is the important thing to the Empire, which gives them a clear opening for Cham.
Yeah.
Oh, they do a lot to the refinery.
A little bit, just a little damage. What do you think? What do you think Chopper's kill count is?
Someone did the math. It's like 40,000. It's like 40,000. Let's see.
I mean, we talked bad about like Ben Solo, like everybody liking him. Should I like not like Chopper because he's like a war criminal?
Let's see.
Keep going. I'll get the kill count for Chopper.
It's wild. It's an insane amount. Assuming that they weren't rescued, the given total for him is 50,015 kills. In the season 3 premiere, Chopper shot down a mining guild TIE fighter, giving him the total of 50,016. Yeah, over 50,000.
Oh my god, that's a.
It's because he brought down an entire cruiser.
Fair, but my gosh, that's a lot for my guy.
But also, Luke Skywalker has a pretty high count as well.
Oh, I'm sure they all do.
Well, no, because Luke blew up the Death Star.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, Luke killed it like.
But those are also Those are also space fascists. So
yeah, that's true. So it is what it is, I guess.
But Chopper will literally kill like other droids that are doing a job.
Chopper funny, he'll kill you.
Yeah, exactly.
Chopper would kill you in 5 seconds.
Absolutely.
You look at him funny, you'd be dead.
Absolutely.
Me, on the other hand, I'm a Rebels guy.
He tried to kill Ezra multiple times.
You're not. So is he good at killing?
Yes.
So he only kills what he wants.
He's a trained
kind of
killer.
Playing around with,
he's a trained killer. And it works though. They're able to disable a ton of the autocannons, blow up a ton of the refinery, and it pulls a ton of Imperials back to it.
I like this plan because you get the best of both worlds where you're doing the rescue, well, trying to do the rescue, I should say, but also like hitting the Empire hard.
Exactly. And while this is happening, Hauser then alerts Rampart that the refinery is under attack, and he offers to deal with it, but Rampart insists that he's going to handle it himself, that this is him, and he needs to guard the capital. And we had a really nice moment where Hauser kind of goes and talks to Cham, and them saying, like, he wants to do what's right, and it's a really interesting back and forth because it really humanizes Hauser again.
Yeah, it really shows where he's at with this whole thing.
Absolutely. And then finally, Hunter and Echo, I believe. Right? Yeah, Hunter and Echo are able to rescue Cham and the group, asking if Hera is safe, and they inform him he is. And we know that Hera is flying around in a new class shuttle. But at the capital, Crosshair is accompanying his elite squad as well as other clone troopers, getting ready to cover the escape for where the Bad Batch is going to bring all of them. Before they can exit, Hauser knows that Crosshair is there and goes down to the Batch escaping, telling them, "You can't go this way. You will be caught. I will distract them while you go a different way. It's Cham's house, or Cham. It's a place Cham knows very well, so he knows how to escape." Yeah. And Gobi is distrustful, says we shouldn't trust the clone, but they decide that Hauser says that it's his side, and he finally understands that the Empire is doing something wrong.
Yeah.
And he does look at Hunter and Echo for that, and actually he tells them they should take Senator Taw's like his weird shuttle. I forget the exact name they had for it, but in his private tower. And Hauser apologizes for not doing something sooner.
Yeah, it was that nice like a nice like come to Jesus moment kind of thing where he
jeez.
But I don't know. That's
come
what
to
it was.
the
Like,
come to the rebellion. Well,
to the
technically,
rebellion.
yeah. I mean the Star Wars Jesus is Obi-Wan.
Yeah, so come to the good side kind of thing. Like this was a nice little arc for Hauser where he's like, oh no, like what I'm doing right now is not as admirable as I once thought it was when I was working for the Republic. Like now that I'm here for the Empire, like this isn't right. Like they're hurting my friends and whatnot. So Hauser helping him to escape again. That's that character building that happens very quickly, and it's consistent through episode 1 and 2 of this arc that it makes sense. Whereas I feel like some Bad Batch things, like that growth doesn't happen as quickly.
I know it's been happening with all the side characters.
Yeah, the side characters get it. They're like, but the Bad Batch, something's just not. They're defective. It's not clicking for them.
Yeah, but it gets even more interesting. Actually, the interesting thing is they interviewed someone and saying it's crazy how much people enjoy certain things because it was some Star Wars toy creator. I'm pretty sure they said like Hauser was so popular that they're literally making him a Black Series.
Nice.
Like That's awesome. Did, like he was so popular. They're like, oh, we should make something for him.
That's cool.
Which is just really cool, and obviously, of course, voiced by the incredible D. Bradley Baker.
Can you imagine being D. Bradley Baker and just being like, all your Black Series, all your Funkos of your character, be like, I was him, I was him, I was him, and I was him.
Well, he's so many other things. I mean, I originally was like knew D. Bradley Baker like from American Dad, from him being Klaus the fish.
Yeah.
Obviously, I watched Clone Wars before that, but you never really put the face to the names when you're a child.
I feel like Star Wars Clone Wars was the first time like I got into like, oh, this is the voice actor of this character because of Ashley and stuff like that. I think that was like the first show that I did with that.
Very true. Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
And when this happens, Hauser finally turns as the batch escapes to face the Imperials, and he ends up leaving out the door, taking his helmet off and saying that it's time to, as Crosshair's about to tell them to move in, he opens the door saying that it's time, like they came here to free Ryloth and they did that. It's no longer time to do that, and they've gone against and targeted the people they've sworn to protect. And he says he's no longer a part of this, throwing down his helmet, saying who else is with him. A decent chunk are with him. I'm very surprised.
I was surprised. I really thought it was going to be I didn't even think it was going to be 1 or 2. I thought it was just going to be him by himself and everybody was going to be for it, but it was probably what you think, half, maybe? A little more than half, honestly.
Yeah, well, I thought it was going to be no one and they were going to shoot him.
Too.
I thought they were going to shoot him to death. I really thought we were about
to see him dead right there.
And multiple throw down their rifles, and as that's happening, all the fugitives escape, which pisses off Crosshair even more as he tries to take down the shuttle. It misses. And from there, as Hunter and Crosshair glare at each other, they have the clones arrested.
Yes.
And I like the way that Wikipedia says this. The final part is live to fight another day, as they are all talking in the shuttle. They're all in the hangar together, and Sham says that he needs to now re-free Ryloth, and it's time to fight another day. And Eleni offers to pay the Bad Batch, but Hunter says they need the money more than them. That's a growing moment.
That's some growth.
But they forget it the next episode.
Were you surprised Eleni made it out of this episode? Because I was shocked. I really thought we were going to see her death in this.
Well, we know she dies in like a house bombing.
So that's why I thought it was going to be in this. I thought it was going to be in this escape. She was going to die in this.
That would have been interesting, but I think there needs to be a little bit more time.
Sure.
I did originally think that, but then when it was a break him out of jail thing, I'm like, that's a little different.
Yeah, I'm glad it didn't happen, but I was surprised. I'm not saying like, oh, I want her to die in this. No, I'm not saying that. I was like, oh, I really had like all expectations that this is what was going to see, because I don't know how many times you're going to see Hera. Will you ever see that moment? It's not the moment I need to see, but I thought if they were going to do it, it was going to be in this. But I'm glad they got her out of there.
For sure. And as they're talking, Eleni says that they know that there's a war coming, and it will also be the Bad Batch's fight as much as it is theirs, which I thought was them trying to wake them up. Like, get
Right.
ready, this is going to happen.
Should have been woken up 3 episodes ago, but it's fine. Like maybe
Yeah.
this time we'll do it for you all.
Tech taught Hera how to scramble a ship's signature, and Omega's sad that they have to leave the Friends, but they promise they will see each other again.
Do you think they'll see each other later in the season? I do not. I think they'll come back in episode or season 2. Excuse me.
Either that, or we'll end up seeing them in a live action sense.
Unless the only thing I could think is like if they do finally wake up to like this whole like okay we're against the Empire now, more than ever. Like maybe they join the rebellion now, and this is like becomes like a rebellion prequel. So it's like a what's the word I'm trying to think of? Like a
It's a prequel to a prequel.
so like Bad Batch is like an epilogue for the Clone Wars, but a prequel for Rebels. That
Yeah.
like it's gonna be in that basically. I could very much see them like join the rebellion, and then Bad Batch turns into like I said, the epilogue of the Clone Wars into a prequel or like the building stages of Phoenix Squadron before Ezra joins in to like that big part
Yeah.
of Rebellion when it's almost so close to episode 4.
I know it might be.
My brain just thought of that right now. Good for me.
Pat on the back.
If it's wrong, good for me. If it's wrong, ignore me.
It was a quick thought. And then finally,
Sahara and Omega hug was cute.
It was.
I'll throw that out there.
It was.
Made me happy.
And then we finally are back at the damaged refinery where Rampart and Crosshair are speaking, and Rampart says that we've vastly underestimated your 4 friends and wish they were fighting for the Empire. And then Crosshair asks permission to hunt them down, which Vice Admiral Rampart finally obliges as Crosshair smiles darkly as Rampart and his troops walk away.
Now, I love that ending because I really thought episode 13 was going to lead into that. But
I wish it did. I wish it did.
Episode 12 was a great episode. I like shorter arcs. I'd rather like a nice 2, maybe 3-part arc than a 4 or 5 like you sometimes see in Clone Wars. I think the 4 was a very common one. I love the little quick 2-part arc. It was nice because it spread it out, so we had that nice cliffhanger after episode 1, and a week later we got to see episode 2 and see how the whole thing concluded. So I like that 2-part arc a lot. And then
I did too. I thought it was nice. That the thing is, it's just this is the next episode, as we'll be talking about episode 13, Infested. That kind of just left, I think, a bad taste in my mouth. So it kind of like overshadowed the Ryloth arc. Sadly, it'll be more interesting to rewatch the whole season as one.
For sure. Yeah.
Do that. But anything else to add on our Ryloth arc before we jump into Infested?
A great episode. Shout out Hera. Shout out Chopper, even though he's a cold-blooded killer. It's fine. We still love our little orange guy. No, just an awesome arc. And yeah, let's jump into Infested, I guess.
Yes, and this one, to save a friend, the Batch plot a mission to sabotage a gangster's operation. So the Havoc Marauder comes back to Ord Mantell into their landing bay because it's been a few days since their last mission, and they go back to Sid to get their money and actually end up finding out that her bar has been taken over by a new gang of criminals. And
Yes.
a little creepy, a little cryptic. And as they go in there, as they're in there, they actually end up seeing Pike Syndicate people passing through, which kind of makes me. Is there any name that kind of jumps into your mind that we might be seeing from this?
Is there supposed to be?
I would hope
Is it
so.
supposed to be Han Solo?
No,
Oh, I don't know.
no, that's a few years away. No, Maul.
Oh. Okay,
'Cause
yeah.
At this point, I
do you
think
we're
Maul
gonna get Darth
still.
Maul again?
That's what I'm wondering. Because
I'm fine-
supposedly,
I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. Fine.
because supposedly, I mean, I would like to see Maul not as like Sith Lord Maul, Crime Lord Maul, not knowing he's Force sensitive, like us knowing he is, but him not showing it. Him as just like the big bad of a gang would be a lot cooler. Kind of like what we saw in Solo, just without the lightsaber.
This better not negate Solo 2 from happening, but yeah, that's fine. If this, yeah, okay, that'd be kind of cool.
Well, this takes place. We're still before Solo right now.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, this is like right after episode 3, basically.
Exactly. And yeah, we're still in 19 before Battle of Yavin. Uh, and I know Maul would, because supposedly Sam Witwer teased being back in the studio for Star Wars. That could
Then
mean
he's probably going to be a Bad Batch at some point,
that could
which I
mean
love. I
a
love. I
million
love Maul.
things. They could finally be bringing back Starkiller.
Maybe.
Who knows? I've been waiting for that for a while. It'd be a really good villain for a Luke Skywalker story. There's also rumors that Brie Larson again has been cast as Mara Jade, and what's his name? Lars Mikkelsen is going to be Thrawn. I'll throw that in there. But that would be
Allegedly.
allegedly. Mara would be for the Luke Skywalker show, and Lars would be for I think Ahsoka.
Ahsoka probably. Yeah.
Oh, the other thing. Yeah, we don't have to do that now. That would be a fun episode itself, just talking about what might be coming. So as this is happening, they're a little nervous and saying that what's happening. They try to barge into the office. They're told they can't, but they still do. And as it happens, they come in and they see a man petting the lizard Ruby, who is now this Deveronian's prized pet. Cool entrance for a guy. I know. Well, Ruby seems to like him.
Yeah, so I guess not too bad. I love a good Deveronian.
I know. And when Omega asks what's happening, he says this is his place. Sid owed me, and now it's mine. And they kind of say, "Where's Sid?" And they say, "Doesn't matter. This is our place now. It's my territory."
Yeah.
And he even offers to hire the Bad Batch. And Hunter says, "We'll think about it," and they decide to leave. Interesting opening. I did not expect a Sid-centric episode.
I didn't, and again, I didn't think they didn't seem to really care. They cared about Sid and where she was, but like, I don't know, like Hunter was just like, "Oh, we'll think about like working for you," and I was like, that felt off. Something felt off to me in this whole episode. I guess I don't know.
I mean, I see why the Batch themselves would not really care about Sid. Omega has a different childish view on it. Not like childish like that, like she's a child.
Yes.
Like she has a very nice view on the world, on the universe. And while they're leaving, they decide that it might just be time to leave Ord Mantell, and they say to start preparing the ship. But Omega says they can't leave Sid like this. They need to help her because she's their friend. Very loose word. Sid has exploited them for months. And as they go back to their ship, Sid is there and says, at least overhearing a lot of that conversation, saying at least Omega cares about her. And
now,
go ahead.
I will say this. I know in the last episode we literally said, like, how's the Bad Batch not learning this? It's always Omega's the worst reason. I side a little bit with the Bad Batch on this one. Like, if you abandon Sid, it's not the craziest. I'm surprised they weren't trying to look for her, but I'm also like, yeah, I get it. She was exploiting Omega for gambling purposes literally a couple episodes ago, and she didn't warn them about whatever it was at the warning zone or the landing zone in their previous mission that I think it was Tech was talking about. So Sid's not the best person. Does she help him out a little bit? Yeah, here and there, but she's still not the most reliable or trustful person. So I get their hesitation for sure.
No, for sure. And I was like, I understand it, but I get why you would help her as well.
Yeah.
And aboard the ship, Sid explains that they met Ronald Durand, who's a former client and the son of the crime boss, Izza Durand, who I don't believe we've met before.
I don't think so.
This is a whole new... Go ahead.
Why are they still working for Sid?
Because there are certain things that they need in the universe, and it's friends, money, and a place to hide. And Sid is the only one that'll offer those.
That's fair.
That's what That's always what she says.
I was like, what happened? Did they pay off? Yeah. Okay, that makes.
They did. They paid off all the debts, and now they're even. So anything that they make now, she gets. They get.
They get to keep this play. Okay. Yeah.
Yes. So all we know is that this guy, the Durand family, is a big crime family, and Roland is trying to make a name for himself by teaming up with the Pike Syndicate. We know that never goes well.
I have another take. I think Roland Durant is probably the worst name in Star Wars.
I thought it was the guy that's like. I was like, I also saw him. I'm like, oh my god, this is the origin story for that guy in Rebels that always gets them stuff.
Oh, that guy, yeah,
I
no,
thought it
I
was
was like, this is
him.
like such like a like plain Jane, not Star Wars name. Probably like one of like yeah, this is probably like one of the most like
Normal.
normal names in Star Wars, basically. So it doesn't feel like it fits right, but I still like Roland as a character.
He was an interesting character. Um, and they
Yes, I
start
should say that.
talking.
He's interesting. I don't like him. He's interesting. Sorry to interrupt.
And the big thing is that the reason why he's here is because Ord Mantell is very important due to the amount of hyperspace lanes.
Yes.
So Roland saw that Sid's pub was interesting and very useful and took it. Sid vows to take back her parlor and says that the batch are gonna help because she's good at keeping secrets. So
Nice
blackmail, some
No
blackmail.
big deal.
And then
Nothing new
Tex
for Sid.
nothing. And then Tex says that she's trying to blackmail them, and Sid agrees, which is good. She's
Fun. She
open.
knows her
She's
game.
honest. She might blackmail, but at least she's honest.
Yeah, for sure.
And the plan is to steal the spice from the office. And when you mess with the Pike spice, you don't last that long. So they say that the only way to get through this is through the tunnels, and they can't use any form of machinery. They have to do like the handheld, like push carts, because of something below in the tunnels. They agree. They start going through, and they have to sneak through on the railway. And no one can talk. No one can know. No one can like. No seeing, no hearing, no anything. Like nothing at all. I thought it was a pretty good plan overall, though. I'll give them that.
Yeah, for sure. I like the carts. The carts are pretty cool.
I thought that was fun. It kind of reminded me of Indiana Jones.
Yeah, for sure.
And Sid warns that the reason everything has to be quiet is because the caverns have an infestation problem. That's why they're no longer used. And Wrecker says that they're not afraid of a few bugs, which is never say, in Star Wars, never say that nothing's a problem. Because it'll be a problem for you.
One day when they do the Bat 2 expansion to a Bad Batch land, they should do Seven Dwarfs mine carts, but with these carts. That would be fun.
That'd be fun. That would be fun.
We'll never do it, but that's my dumb Star Wars.
Or just turn Seven Dwarfs Mine into that.
Yeah, that's going to fit perfectly in Fantasyland. Yep, I like that idea.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yep.
You put it right next to the
Appa,
reimagined-
yep.
Yeah, you put it right next to the reimagined Peter Pan's Flight starring Appa from Avatar.
It's so sad. I don't want them to change Peter Pan's flight, personally.
I know.
It's not great, but it's fun. It's nostalgic.
Yeah.
But that's also that's the reason people say Splash Mountain shouldn't change. So maybe I shouldn't use that as my defense.
But we digress.
So on the way, Wrecker accidentally drops his flashlight down and says it's an accident, and they wonder if it's going to be a problem. And it's quiet for a second until these animals down below come flying up, and it's these crazy types of these bat-like things. We don't get a huge issue of them right away, but a little bit. And finally, when they reach the end of the tunnel, Sid calls her to Dumb and Dumber to get the way to steal, to get them out of the pub, and they do. They're able to steal Ruby, and it leads everyone in the pub on a wild goose chase as the batch sneaks in, takes all the spice, and gets out of there.
Yeah, I didn't really think we'd see the Bad Batch taking over some spice, but here we are.
Only drugs. They're only drug running.
Drug running, no big deal.
Only some of that.
Isn't that crazy? Some of like the most popular characters in Star Wars are like just drug traders.
Well, that's the thing. That's something that's always been interesting about Star Wars. Like, Han was supposed to shoot first. Like, Han's not a good guy originally. Han turns into a good guy, but he's kind of slimy. He's kind of a sleazeball. He's a nerf herder.
Poe was dealing in spice for a bit too. Remember that?
Well, that was a way of them just being like, oh look, Poe's another Han Solo.
Yeah.
That I didn't like that. We won't talk about that. And finally they catch the Wee Quay and I hope for the Hammerhead, and saying, where'd the spice go? Because Roland figures out that the spice is gone and knows Sid took it, but needs to know how Sid took it. And they squeal. They give away all the information so they don't get killed. And when they finally find Sid, the batch has another encounter where they drop the spice into the cavern, but it doesn't matter. The spice is gone. And right when Roland is about to kind of confront them, it doesn't matter because the Pike Syndicate is there to collect their money, and it turns out that he no longer has the spice. So it's not a game of he said, she said. He's directly responsible without evidence, so he's in charge. He has to own it, and he's going to be killed because of it.
The Pikes are some bad MFers. They are tough, to say the least.
They are. It's pretty crazy. They always get
a Pike show would be kind of cool.
Actually, I mean, we do know that the Pike Syndicate is directly responsible. They are the ones that ended up shooting down. Who was it? Who created the droid army? Sifo-Dyas. The Pikes are the ones that killed Sifo-Dyas.
Right.
On the orders of Count Dooku, but still.
This would be a sick show actually, or like a comic book of just like following.
I think a comic book
with like a nice like 5-parter. That'd be cool.
So, the Pikes tell the batch and all of them that even though there's no evidence, they're going to retrieve the spice, or it's not going to be good for them. So now they have to go down and recover the spice in the bottom, while Omega is held captive by the Pike Syndicate. So a lot on the line. Now they don't have to be like... Omega doesn't have to be the voice of reason, because if they don't do it right, she dead.
Yep.
And what they end up doing this time is that they're going to grapple hook down Sid and Wreckerwell, because Sid is actually extremely strong as well, because she is a Trandoshan. And while they're down there, they're doing a good job keeping everything quiet. They get up all of the spices except for the last two, and while they are being pulled up, and obviously Wrecker is afraid of heights.
I did like Wrecker whispering, or trying to whisper, was kind of fun for this.
Trying to whisper is, I think, the best way to say it. And while this is happening, and they're bringing up the final pulley, the final crates, one of the pulley systems breaks, sending this crashing noise all the way down. And very in a funny way, Wrecker hopes that do you think the Earlings heard it? And then Sid obviously like, they definitely did. And a huge swarm comes up, and while this is happening, they're kind of battling it out. And it's not going well until they're kind of... Echo's like, something needs to be done, and Tech goes, don't worry, here it goes, and throws down this like light bomb that...
Yeah.
Very cool. Lets them escape with it, which then lets them bring the stolen spice back to the Pike Syndicate. Happy ending, yada yada yada. Until the Pikes say that they need to resolve one last thing, as they put Roland down looking like they're going to chop his head off, but instead they just chop off one of his horns.
Yeah, I wonder what like the horns mean for like his culture.
I think it's very symbolic.
Yeah, so I feel like that's like a big like point of pride.
I think it'd be like a Twi'lek and their Lekus.
Absolutely. I don't know that for a fact. We definitely know that with the Twi'leks, but like I wonder if that's like a big sign of like shame for them to have.
All right.
I would have to, or it's like the Pikes are very conniving like that. So it makes sense if that was important.
Have you finished the most recent High Republic book?
Which one? Out of the Shadows?
No, the adult one.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. R.I.P. our boy. Without name dropping. Without name dropping. That could mean anything. Who knows?
Yeah, Bar was a great character. I'm just kidding. Bar.
And Roland says that this is what happens when you're in a criminal, when you're in this area. He was luckier than most to come away with just that.
Yeah. He was very interesting, because I thought that would have really like made him bad, but he was more thankful than anything.
I agree, and Sid also says that it's time just to call it with both the Pikes and Rollins, saying this was a bad deal, and just it was a bad deal, so they took his horn. That was the bad deal, which humiliates him. Omega then asks if he's okay, and that's when Omega's always looking out for everyone.
For sure, which I love. I love that about Omega.
And then the funniest way we end is that Sid offers the Bad Batch the first round on her, and Wrecker says she owes them a lot more than that. And Sid
Yep.
jokingly says not to pull his luck. Uh, and then finally, Hunter asks Omega why she stuck up for Roland after everything. And she says that she doesn't know, but Ruby likes Roland, so she believes that he can't be all that bad. And that's the thing again, where Omega has to be the voice of reason too many times.
But like, but this one I can get like an excuse away from because like I still think she might be force sensitive, so she like sees the good in people,
Yeah.
kind of a thing. So like I'm wondering because like we know the Jedi, not all of them, especially after the Rise of the Storm. We know like Stellan doesn't have a connection with animals, but a good amount of Jedi have like a connection to creatures and animals. We've seen it with Ezra. We've seen it with a bunch of characters. Rey did it in the Rise of Skywalker. Um, so that connection she has with Omega has with Ruby, like maybe she sent something and it's like, yeah, this guy Roland's okay. Like Ruby sticks up or
He's
vouches
not
for
bad, but he's not good.
we gotta like keep him around, kind of a thing. So I'm interested to
Exactly.
see if that helps continue with it. So I don't think this is one of those like instances where I'm like, what the hell is happening right now? Comparatively to episode 12, when I was like, come on guys, like help Hera, help a family out here. Um, but it's definitely a ping little red flag.
Yeah, and again, maybe I need to rewatch it. I was not a fan of this episode. Maybe I'll like it in the grand scheme. I just think with 3 episodes left, we needed a lot more than just another lesson for the batch to learn. They've learned a
Yeah.
lot of the same lesson over and over again.
But I think Roland's going to be an important figure for the Bad Batch going forward, though. I really think he'll be like something big, maybe in season 2. Because I agree. Like I was expecting something a little bit bigger than what we got for the like fourth to last episode, or third to last episode, I guess.
Yeah.
But if you're going to bring Roland in this late to the game, I have to imagine he helps you out in this finale and helps you out going forward. Like you don't just introduce him in this episode after everything that happened on Ryloth and Crosshair getting the permission, like, yep, you go hunt these guys down just to introduce them here without having something big for them. At least I hope. Knock on wood.
Exactly. Um, and with that, that's this episode as well. The next one will be called War Mantle.
Yes, and we will
Sounds
definitely
pretty
have
cool.
a recap about that next week.
We will. But anything else to add about these 2 episodes before we sign off?
Yeah, not the best episode to end on, but it wasn't. I didn't hate it or anything like that. I still love this show. I get excited for it every single week, and I'm excited to see what happens on this little half marathon sprint to the finale and see what goes on and how things hopefully get resolved for the Bad Batch. And they have a lot of there's a lot of loose ends to tie up in 3 episodes. We have the bounty hunters. We have Crosshair. We have a lot going on, so I'm interested and excited at the same time to see, can they wrap all these up? Is something going to have to wait for season 2? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
Is there a season 2?
That's true. We don't even know if there's a season 2 or not, I guess.
We don't yet, but hopefully soon.
Yeah.
I really have no clue, but I have been enjoying the series. I hope they can end on a strong note. That's the key for
sure.
me. That is the key.
Finish it home strong because it definitely started off great. So
Exactly. They might have had a little lull, but they can earn it back really quick, and I'm excited to see what Dave Filoni and his gang has up their sleeve for this.
Absolutely.
Before that, Cam, your favorite part of the week. Where can they find you on social media and everything else?
You can find me on Twitter at CamRamos95. You can find the podcast on Twitter at Stream the Mouse. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Streaming with the Mouse. You can find us on our website, cprob.com/streamthemouse. And you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. Just search for Streaming with the Mouse. Please be sure to follow, rate, review, like, subscribe, all the above, whatever each of those channels require you to do, so we get more ears onto this podcast. Like I said, we had an awesome episode last week with Kate Herron, the director and executive producer of Loki. We're hoping to have more guests on in the future, and in order to get that, we need to grow and be bigger, so that way bigger people would like to. Not that Kate Herron is big; that was a huge freaking get. But we want to make sure more earballs. Jesus,
You're having a day. You're finishing real strong.
We need more ears to listen to this. Build the podcast up so we get more guests in the future too, to bring them to your ears and wherever you get your podcast from. Cliff, save me. Where can they find you?
Yes, you can find me at CBRobinson81. And just a heads up, if you do go through our website, I'm guessing you probably don't, it is currently under maintenance because it's still there. It still says streaming with the mouse and everything. I am just updating my personal website. I'll finish it one day. But for Cam Ramos, my name is Clifton Paul Robinson signing off. Have a magical day, everyone. Thank you for watching Stream with the Mouse. We will see you next week.
May the force be with you.